And I guess where some of the outrage and anger is because we've now got a Prime Minister who looks as if he's going to deliver the Brexit that people voted for. And so the protests that are taking place today on the streets of London, basically, Boris has smoked them out. Because what you're going to see today is a lot of people that either want to dilute Brexit or they want to stop Brexit completely. They don't care about the referendum. And I think that, protests are a proper thing, but some people want to bring chaos to streets around the United Kingdom, and I don't think that's right. But if they want to protest and they accept the verdict of the British people in 2016, my advice to them is go to the streets of Brussels and go and protest to Michel Barnier and Juncker and Tusk and say, come on, guys, get to the negotiating table and discuss the deal, because Boris wants to leave the European Union with a deal.
Well, no, the main issue is that he just said Boris Johnson is trying to deliver the Brexit that people voted for. Now, that's just simply not true. In 2016, the majority voted for Brexit, and concretely what that means is we end our current relationship with the EU. The EU treaties no longer apply to us. But as we've seen over the past 3 years, that can mean a vast range of things. Brexit can be anything from no deal right the way through up to a Norway-style deal where we stay in the single market. Now, the only opportunity this country has had to define what sort of Brexit we will and will not accept is the 2017 general election, in which 54% of voters voted for parties whose manifestos explicitly ruled out a no-deal Brexit. So a no-deal Brexit is exactly not the Brexit that people voted for. It is the opposite. In fact, Boris Johnson in 2016 said it's time to ignore the pessimists and the merchants of gloom and to do a new deal that would be good for Britain and good for Europe too. He called it totally absurd if we were to end the free trading arrangements we currently have. A no-deal Brexit is the exact opposite of what he promised us, and now he's shutting down Parliament to deliver a version of Brexit that he promised would never happen, and which goes against not only the will of our sovereign Parliament, but the will of the people. That is hilariously undemocratic.
Nigel, you can sense Femi's anger and frustration, and there are millions of people who feel the same, despite the referendum result. They say this is not the way to go about it, that proroguing Parliament is wrong. What do you say to him? What do you say to those people?
No, well, I'll say that the people did vote in 2016 to leave the European Union, and we knew during that campaign that we were warned that we would leave the customs union and the single market if we were to leave the EU. People voted for the full Monty Brexit. They didn't vote...
Did they?
Yes, they did. They didn't vote. They want to be an independent United Kingdom. They don't want to be chained to the European Union. They don't want to pay billions into the European Union to be part of the single market and customs union. They want to do their own trade deals with countries like the United States of America. They want to control their own immigration into the United Kingdom from the EU 27. It's the full Monty Brexit. And what people like Femi are trying to do is either stop Brexit completely, and they talk about democracy. They cover themselves in this shroud of democracy. But what they're trying to do is overturn that 2016 democratic vote of the British people.
Well, what you've just heard there is just rhetoric. I've given you the numbers. 52% voted for Brexit, yes, but then 54% in 2017 voted for parties whose manifestos explicitly ruled out no-deal Brexit. That means the only opportunity where we've had to say what sort of Brexit we will and will not accept is when we told Parliament, do not take us out of the EU without a deal. Now, Boris Johnson, a man who wasn't even the leader of the Conservative Party when we had that general election, so there is no democratic legitimacy for him to be in the position he currently is in, to shut down our sovereign Parliament is completely wrong. Now, the idea that people voted for a no-deal Brexit just goes against everything we've seen. Everyone who argued in 2016 that Brexit might make us poorer, it might damage trade, they were immediately met with, no, do you think the Germans would put tariffs on their cars? No. Ultimately, if you leave without a deal, the EU is forced to, under international law, put tariffs on UK products, because if we don't have a free trade deal with them, they have to apply their general tariff policy to us. Now, given that we sell half of the cars we make to the EU, half of the fish we catch to the EU, a third of Welsh lamb goes to the EU, that is a significant damage to people living in this country, which people did not vote for. They voted under circumstances where people were reassured that there would not be any damage to trade with our closest and nearest partner. This idea that Boris Johnson is doing the will of the people is simply fantasy.
Well, protest on the streets of Brussels then, Femi. Take your message to Barnier.